شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا. All praise is due to Allah. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we ask Allah's forgiveness and we seek Allah's assistance and we seek refuge in Allah from our evil souls and our bad deeds. Verily, whomever Allah guides to Islam, no one can lead astray. And whomever Allah allows to go astray because they do not want any guidance, then no one can guide. And I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of our worship except Allah alone with no partners. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His servant and His messenger. May Allah exalt His mention, grant Him peace, His companions, and all those who follow them on their righteous path until the day of judgment. Brothers and sisters in Islam, imagine that there was a company. And this company was established by individuals who had two goals. The first, integrity. The second, quality. And these people were serious businessmen. They were all qualified. They were all sincere. And they all strove to provide the best service out there. Real, sincere individuals. And they established this business in this fashion. And they started to deal with the customers and the consumers. And due to their integrity and the quality that they were providing, their clientele started to grow. And more customers became interested in doing business with them. And they, in the process, laid down some foundations, some principles for this business, by which they could maintain the quality and the integrity that they provide for the customers. And everything was going well based on the foundations that they have laid down, the principles that they all agreed that they will never let go of. You know, this was the very thing that differentiated them from everybody else doing business. As they grew older, there was a second generation, their children maybe, or those who were employed by them, who had similar characteristics. And they took the covenant upon them that they will follow them in their footsteps and that they will conduct the business in the same fashion they were conducting business. Now, of course, the second generation is never as good as the first, you see, because these were the pioneers. The first one, they were the ones who started the business. They knew the business. So the second ones were still okay though, because of their sincerity. So they were able to maintain the business in this fashion by following what has been laid down for them from the principles, by the pioneers, the original, the ones who instituted this particular business or company. And then, as these individuals got older, they started to train those who were younger than them. And the more they went far from the original individuals, the more we had people come up with their own ideas. You see? So then, you had some people who were trained, who said, you know, this quality thing is, why do we have to give quality? You know, now it's about mass productivity. We should have a lot of stuff. You know, instead of just focusing on one thing and making sure the quality is good, let us use this money to invest into other products, and so we could reach more customers, and we don't really have to have the best quality out there. You see? So then they formed a little group and said, this will be our ideology in this particular business. This is how we go into business. Now these individuals were opposed with another group who said, no, it's not really about the quality. It's about, why do we have to be sincere with the customers? All companies cheat, so we can also cheat. It doesn't matter. So then they got their own methodology and they took a little side in the company. And then the company slowly but surely, as it started, moving on to the later generations, it wasn't the same anymore. And it was divided, individuals amongst the company were divided, yet there was a group of people who always maintained what the forerunners, the original ones, had laid down from the principles. And they strove to keep them. They continued to tell the people, we must have integrity, and we must provide equality. This is how the business used to function, this is how it functions now. Right? Well, needless to say, with the passage of time, things were not the same anymore. And that company that was world class at some point and was doing business internationally went back to the same old local company, barely making enough income to survive. Now, the question that I will pose to you, and you may answer audibly with your voice, what is expected of these individuals in order to do business as their forerunners were doing business? What are they expected to do? Anyone?
Sincerity.
Right? Go back to what the older people were doing. Because these are things that you don't lose. Even if the world develops and you have more technology, equality and integrity are two things that don't change with the changing of time. This is from the essence of the business. You cannot do business in reality and be successful unless you follow these two principles, regardless of what kind of business you're in. So that the solution is that these people go back to what the original individuals who began this business were upon. Then, only then, they will be able to do business as they were doing business. And I'm sure you figured it out already. This is all symbolic to the Muslim Ummah. The successful individuals were the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his companions. And integrity was the sincerity. And equality was following the prophetic way and not innovating. When those generations came after the first generation, they were very much close to them. So they followed their footsteps to the best of their ability. They were not as good, because you cannot be as good as the original, but they were very good. So they maintained. Then the generation came after, they also maintained. And then things started to change. Individuals started to impose their own ideologies into how the business should be conducted, and then the business started to deteriorate or disintegrate, and things were not as good as they were in the with the early generation. And we, the Muslims today, are suffering from the same disease. We are that later generation of individuals trying to do business according to the way that they were not doing business. And if this is going to be the case, and we will divide ourselves into groups, each focusing on one aspect of Islam and saying this is what you must do, this is the important thing, while disregarding what the principles that were laid down in the beginning were, then we were never going to run the business as they ran the business. Yet, because we said there's a group of individuals, even in that business, with all these changes that remain upon the truth, they remain trying to propagate what the early forerunners had instilled in that company. They kept calling to it. Let's go back to what they were doing. We will be as successful as they were. Similarly, today, there is that particular group. There is that particular group that are trying to take the Muslims back to that early generation. Because it is through that early generation that Islam was the way it was. The only thing that took the Jahiliyyah that was present during the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was the guidance of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And it is regarding this that Imam Malik rahimahullah said his famous statement that we should all familiarize ourselves with. He said, من ابتدع في الإسلام بدعة ورآها حسنة فقد زعم أن محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم خان الرسالة فإن الله يقول اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا فما لم يكن يومئذ دينا لن يكون اليوم دينا ولن يصلح آخر هذه الأمة إلا ما أصلح أولها. Listen to what he said. He said, whoever introduces an innovation into Islam and he sees it as something good, notice you will never come across an innovator who tells you, yeah, this is a bad innovation. It's always good. It's good, akhi. Dhikr of Allah. We're loving Allah. We're loving the Prophet ﷺ. So we have to do these things. He said, whoever introduces something into Islam and he holds it as something good, he has alleged and claimed that Muhammad ﷺ has betrayed the message of Islam. Look how grave that violation is. He said, because we read in the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, this day, when that ayah was revealed on the day of Arafah, this day I have perfected your religion for you and completed my favors upon you, and I am pleased with Islam as a way of life for you. So Imam Malik said as commentary on this particular ayah, so whatever was not part of the deen then could not be part of the deen today. When that ayah was revealed, the deen was complete. Whatever did not exist then cannot exist today. Then he said the part that it is relevant to our lecture tonight, and nothing will rectify the last part of this ummah except that which rectified the first part. I will repeat. Nothing will rectify the last part of this ummah except that which rectified the first part. And this is the discussion. What was the thing that made them unique? What was that thing that made them virtuous? All you have to do is read the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to find out the virtue of these individuals. So who are the righteous predecessors? In the Arabic language, righteous, salih, and predecessors is as-salaf. So in reality, we are speaking about as-salaf as-salih. As-salaf is anyone who came before you. Anyone who preceded you is considered a salaf for you, both linguistically and Islamically. As-salih for the righteousness. So they call that salaf as-salih because they are that generation which Allah said about in the Quran, وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. And among the first to embrace Islam, or the forerunners from the Muhajirin. Who are the Muhajirin? Those who resided in Mecca and they migrated with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to Medina as means of obedience to Allah. Wal Ansar are those who aided them, who were residing in Medina and they aided their brothers for the sake of Allah and they kept them and took care of them and protected them from their enemies. Those are these individuals. But the ayah says, وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ, and those who follow them exactly in faith. Those who follow them exactly in goodness. This ayah is understood through the narration of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, لا تزال طائفة من أمتي منصورين لا يضرهم من خذلهم حتى تقوم الساعة. He said, alayhi salatu wasalam, in a hadith that is sahih, in Muslim, there will remain a group of people amongst my ummah upon the truth, and they will be victorious, and they will not be disappointed, they will not be affected by those who oppose them until the establishment of the hour. So then, the ayah says, وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ, those who follow them in righteousness, in goodness, exactly in faith. And the Prophet ﷺ said, there will remain a group of my ummah upon the truth. So no matter what happens to the Muslim ummah, the truth will never disappear or vanish. It will always be available, but it is upon the individual who understands to take that path in his life. So this ayah is among the virtues. What does the ayah say afterwards? رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Allah is pleased with them, and they are pleased with Him. Now, sitting here tonight, can any one of you say that Allah is pleased with him? Huh, brothers? Can any one of you sitting here tonight say Allah is pleased with him? No. No matter who you are, no matter how righteous you think you are, you may be nothing in the sight of Allah, and He may be displeased with you. No one can give this tazkiyah to himself. Wallah, Allah is pleased with me. That's a grave mistake for someone to believe that, let alone say that. Believing that is not from the Sunnah. The companions used to cry all day. Umar ibn al-Khattab giving glad tidings of Jannah. The Prophet ﷺ said, I went to Jannah during his dream, and he went by a big castle, and he seen that there was a woman in there. He asked, whose castle is this? They said, this is that of Umar ibn al-Khattab. He said, so I knew how jealous you were, so I just went away. I did not want to see that woman because he knew that Umar was a jealous man. So he told this to Umar the next day. I've seen your house in Jannah. And Umar cried. He said, from you I'm going to be jealous, O Messenger of Allah? He did not focus on the fact that he was giving like that of Jannah. He didn't say, oh mashallah, tabarakallah, I'm from the people of Jannah, Allahu Akbar, I'm going to leave the salah. Did he do that? No. That made him more fearful of Allah. And he was focusing on the statement that I'm going to be jealous from you, O Messenger of Allah, from you. This was his mind frame. And this was their mind frame. People who were given glad tidings of Jannah by the one who doesn't speak from his own desire, and he does not know. Uthman said, if I had one foot in Jannah, I would not feel secure until my other foot is inside. And now we have brothers over here say, Akhi, I am following that way. Brother, I am guided. I'm going straight to Jannah. So we say, Akhi, you need to reconsider your understanding of the deen. No one can say that Allah is pleased with him, but Allah gave him that tazkiyah. Radiyallahu anhum, Allah is pleased with them. وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ, and they are pleased with him. What honor is this? It's upon you. But notice, you can be qualified, because Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ تَبَعُوهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ, and those who follow them in their goodness. But we cannot get this tazkiyah anymore, but we may be included by the grace of Allah without us knowing. But this depends on whether we strive or we don't. That's one ayah. The second ayah, actually there's more than one, but the second one I will quote you is, وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. Surah An-Nisa, verse 69. Allah says, whoever obeys Allah, وَالرَّسُولِ, and the Messenger. Just in case some people thought that obeying Allah was all that they needed to do. You must obey the Messenger ﷺ, because when you obey him, you are obeying Allah. Allah says, whoever obeys Allah and the Rasul, then verily he will be among those whom Allah has bestowed His favors or His grace upon, His bounties. From who? An-Nabiyyin, the prophets, was-Siddiqeen, the truthful ones. These are the individuals who had knowledge and they acted upon the knowledge. And they were truthful in every aspect of their deen. And among them is Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiallahu anhu Allah, and his daughter Aisha as-Siddiqa bint as-Siddiq, radiallahu anha, Maryam, and others that we know from the Quran and the Sunnah that were given that particular title, Siddiq. Was-Shuhada. A-Shuhada could be one of two according to the scholars. A Shaheed is what usually comes to mind as a martyr, the one who dies fighting in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But also there's another kind of Shaheed, which is the scholar. Because Allah says, شَهِدَ اللَّهُ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ وَأُولُو الْعِلْمِ قَائِمًا بِالْقِسْطِ. Allah bears witness, شَهِدَ اللَّهُ, that there is no God worthy of worship but He, so do the angels, وَأُولُو الْعِلْمِ, those who were given knowledge. So then Allah gave him that shahada. So the scholars say the shuhada is not really restricted or confined to what you think as a martyr, rather it also includes the scholars who had understanding of the deen. They are also part of that. And usually they may reach the level of Siddiqiyya, they may be among the Siddiqeen, depending on the level of piety that that scholar has. And the last one, which is the only one that me and you may attempt to join, as-Salihin, the righteous people. The righteous brothers and the righteous sisters in Islam. Now, who are those? Those who obey Allah and His Messenger. Very often we don't think about this, by the way. Do you know that you ask Allah for this at least 17 times a day? Do you know? 17 times a day minimum. If you don't pray any sunnah, and you don't pray any witr, and you don't pray any nafila, no tahiyyat masjid, nothing. You're barely doing the fara'id. The fajr, dhuhr, asr, maghrib, isha only. 17 times you ask Allah for this path. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. The path of those whom you have bestowed your favors upon. Who are they? Explain in Surah An-Nisa. How do you get there? Those who obey Allah and His Messenger. Who were the first people to obey Allah and His Messenger? The Sahaba. The Sahaba of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Those who were most sincere. So much so that in the Hudaybiyah, in that bay'ah that they gave to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Allah revealed this ayah, لَقَدْ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ يُبَايِعُونَكَ تَحْتَ الشَّجَرَةِ فَعَلِمَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ فَأَنزَلَ السَّكِينَةَ عَلَيْهِمْ وَأَثَابَهُمْ فَتْحًا قَرِيبًا. Allah says regarding them, Allah is well pleased. Allah is pleased with the believers who gave pledge to you, O Muhammad ﷺ, under the tree. This is when they went for Umrah and they were prevented from doing Umrah. They sent to Uthman radiallahu anhu to speak with the Qurayshis in order to negotiate. Then the news came that he was killed, although he was not killed. And Prophet ﷺ took a pledge with them that none of them will turn away. No one will escape and they will maintain until they get what they deserve. among them is taking revenge for Uthman and things of this nature, then alhamdulillah, Jonathan Uthman was alive and he came back and everything was fine. Regardless, this was a test from Allah. And the Sahaba say there were around 1,400, in some narrations 1,500 brothers, giving pledge to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ under the tree. Allah says Allah knew what was in their heart, so He sent down the calmness and the tranquility upon them. And He gave them as a reward a near victory. So then look at this test here. Allah knew what was in their hearts, and because of what Allah knew of their heart from sincerity, He sent down the tranquility and the calmness upon them. So these were individuals who were most sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, most keen on following the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The hadith. We have the hadith of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where Abu Bakr, Umar and Uthman, they went on mountain of Uhud. صعدوا جبل أحد فرجف بهم فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أثبت أحد فإنما عليك نبي وصديق وشهيدان. They went on the mountain of Uhud, and the mountain of Uhud shook. It shook under them. The Prophet ﷺ said, be firm, O mountain of Uhud, be calm. Verily upon you is a prophet, a truthful one, and 2 martyrs. That particular prophecy from the Prophet ﷺ is regarding Uthman and Umar, that they will both be killed in the cause of Allah. And you know, one of them was killed by leading the salah, and the other was killed by reciting the book of Allah. They died in the state of worship, while being those responsible of the Muslims. So they were given that shahada by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told the mountain of Uhud to relax because of who is upon it. He didn't say, upon you is the Prophet only. That would have been sufficient for the mountain not to do anything. But the Prophet ﷺ was trying to teach me and you the virtue of these individuals. And now you have people who say that you must curse them. You must verbally abuse them for you to be a believer. You're not a believer unless you disbelieve in Abu Bakr and Umar, and you claim that they are kuffar and what have you. You know the story. You know, individuals who speak on behalf of Islam and Muslims. Individuals who claim that they love Islam and they support Islam and all this nonsense. Then they turn around and in their mind, they seek nearness to Allah by cursing the ones who the Prophet ﷺ gave in this particular virtue. And the Prophet ﷺ refuted them 1400 years back. He said that the hadith of Bukhari Muslim, hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, لا تسبوا أصحابي فلو أن أحدكم أنفق مثل أحد ذهبا ما بلغ مد أحدهم ولا نصفه. He said, do not verbally abuse my companions, don't curse them. Verily, if one of you was to spend equal to the mountain of Uhud in gold, it will not be equal to the mud of one of them or half. You know how much is a mud? A mud is 1/4 of a sa'. And you know, sa' is usually in pounds around 5 pounds. How much 5 pounds in kilos? Help. 2 kilos, 2.5 kilos. A mud is 1/4 of that. The Prophet ﷺ said, if you were to spend 1/4 of that or half, if you were to spend a mountain of Uhud, gold, you will not reach what one of them would be if he spent that particular amount. And so you have individuals going against that, talking about this is the way to Islam. And they give dawah to that, and they strive hard. So it is my obligation and yours to rise for the occasion, to clarify the truth, and to say it as it is. These individuals exist, and if anyone believes that, according to the scholars, they have gone outside of Islam. As soon as you declare Abu Bakr and Umar to be disbelievers, then you have gone beyond the pale of Islam. If you have a shubha, misconception, misunderstanding, a scholar may clarify it for you. But we don't speak about individuals. But anyone who believes that, this person is foreign to Islam. The Christians don't even say that. A Jew and a Christian would not even curse Abu Bakr and Umar. They used to acknowledge them. They didn't want to embrace Islam because of whatever worldly gains that they were seeking, but they wouldn't go to the extent of cursing them. You see? And you have individuals talking about Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, but we also have to curse the Sahaba of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is a calamity. The whole thing is based on the hadith, really. خير الناس قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. The best of mankind, خير الناس, pay attention, not خير أمتي as some wording of the narration comes. In this particular wording of the narration, which is sahih, the best of mankind is my generation, then those who will come after them, then those who will come after them, which are known as التابعون وأتباع التابعين. Those who came after and those who followed them in righteousness. These are خير الناس. طيب. From hadith of Muawiyah, he said, the Prophet ﷺ said in Bukhari, مَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. Whomever Allah intends goodness for, He will give him understanding of the deen. If Allah wants goodness for someone, khayra, He will give him understanding of the deen. The Prophet ﷺ, when he said khayrun nas, the best of people, he did not specify in which aspect. He made it general. Meaning, if they are the best of people, meaning they have the most understanding of the deen. They have better understanding of the deen than those who came after them. And this is clear to anyone who gives it just a minute of thought. These are people who the Quran was being revealed according to their needs. Yani some of them will come and ask the Messenger ﷺ a question, and then an ayah will be revealed from above the 7 heavens that we will recite today until the day of judgment because of a question that one of them asked. So someone who was there, present during this time, he knew the circumstances, he spoke to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, his understanding of the deen will be better than those who will come after who don't have all these privileges. And this is clear like the sun. So the best of these humans after the prophets, we understand that after the prophets, the best of humans after the prophets are the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Then those who will come after them, then those who will come after them. And in our case, those who will strive to run after them. Those who will strive to chase after them. Because we have from other narrations that there will be a group of people who will make this their objective in life. Now I'm talking about the virtues. We will go on to some other topic which shows you that this is not really a matter of choice. This is a matter of obligation. But I will postpone that until the time comes around. In the hadith of Abu Musa in Sahih Muslim, he said, we prayed Maghrib with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then we said to ourselves, why don't we remain in the masjid and pray Isha with him? And they did so. The Prophet ﷺ went, his house was right near the masjid. He went back in after some time. He said, you still here? You still here? You've been here this whole time? They said, yes, O Messenger of Allah. We thought we prayed Maghrib with you. Why don't we stay and pray Isha with you also? He said, Ahsantum, Asabtum. You have done good. You have done the right thing. Then the Messenger of Allah ﷺ started to look in the sky. He started to look in the sky. Then he said to his companions, he said, the stars are security for the skies. And once the stars goes away, then that which has been decreed for the sky shall come upon it. We know that when the stars goes away and the sun and the moon, it's the day of judgment. Right? The sky is protected currently by the stars and the sun and the moon. He said when they go away, that which has been promised to the sun and to the sky shall take place, shall occur. Then he said, and I am means of security and safety for my companions. And when I go away, then that which has been promised to happen to my companions shall come upon them. Then he said, and my companions are means of security for my ummah. So when my companions go away, that which has been promised to happen to my ummah shall come upon them. So the Prophet ﷺ indicated to us in this particular hadith that the companions were protecting the Muslims because as soon as the innovation came about, they smashed it down. And innovations began then. Khawarij began at that early stage. It wasn't something that was recent, that was later on. The Khawarij began at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. The first Khariji is the person who spoke to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, Ya Muhammad, i'dil. Oh Muhammad, be just in the war booties, claiming that the Prophet ﷺ was oppressive. So that was the first khuruj done against the Muslim ruler. And that fitna began back then, and it escalated during the time of the companions, but they were the companions that protected the ummah from the fitna of the Khawarij. So Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu went and advised them And over 1,000 of them went back to the right understanding of the deen, and they abandoned what they were upon. But the idea is that any innovation that came about during that early generation, it was the companions who dealt with it. When the fitna of al-Qadariyah, those who denied the qadr of Allah, they were among the Muslims, those who said that when you do things, it has nothing to do with the decree of Allah. The qadr of Allah is irrelevant. You do the thing, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees it that this happens to you. Not the other way around. Although we believe that everything you do is decreed by Allah. My hand movement has been decreed by Allah 50,000 years before Allah created the heavens and the earth. When Allah created the pen and told the pen, write, He said, what shall I write, my Lord? He said, write everything that will take place until the end of time. Then, everything was written, including this particular dars or this particular lecture. Yet, we are given the free will. So when these people came and denied Al-Qadr, Ibn Umar said, tell them that I am innocent from them. And he made it clear that this particular understanding of the deen is a deviation. So they were means of protection for the Ummah. And once they went away, then that which has been promised to the Ummah will fall, which shall come upon it, and we are living this today. We lived it back then, the early generations lived it, and we continue to live it up to today. Wallah al-Musta'an, things get worse. Things get worse. More groups, more sects, more division, more innovations, more modernism in Islam. We have to change, the non-Muslims, we must make them happy. They don't like us, so we must make them happy. Let us modify some things in Islam. Mafi mushkila. We'll change this. They don't like this, khalas, tell them that it's okay. No jihad, no jihad. Jihad, no, who told you there's jihad in Islam? Jihad means struggle only. But we know. But do you deny jihad? Do you go to this extreme? Trying to please the people? By displeasing Allah, thinking you're giving da'wah. So we have individuals that went to extreme. And the other extreme is that jihad is, wallah, come put a bomb in this da'wah, in this hospital, kill everybody. Well, Allahu Akbar. So this is another extreme. You see? So we cannot endorse that. And we cannot deny that. Rather, we must stick to what they were upon. So we can be safe and protect ourselves from deviance. They were means of protection, but Allah has given us means of protection today. How? Through knowledge. Through knowledge, you can do what they were doing. And I will give you some of these indications very soon, inshallah. Is it obligatory to follow them? Or is it optional? Those who say it's optional, raise your hand. I'll drink water in the meantime. Anyone? Those who say it's an obligation, raise your hand. It's an obligation to follow them? Are you sure? Maybe you have a choice. Yeah, and if you like it, ahlan wa sahlan. You don't like it, you can do whatever you want. Some people have this understanding. When you try to deal with these issues and you bring the evidences, they say, look, they're men, we're men. They were people, we're people. They were Muslims, we're Muslims. What's the difference? Names? What's the difference? Age? So they believe that really, it's not really necessary. This is just if you really want to be extra mutawwi', then you follow them. Otherwise, mafi mushkila. If you want to be an ordinary person, you don't have to follow their way. If they don't say this verbally, they may live that in their lives. You see, you don't have to say things sometimes. Sometimes it's just obvious. So it is not a matter of statement as much as it is a matter of reality. What is this individual upon in his life? How is he raising his children? How is he conducting himself at home? How is he dealing with the neighbors? How is he dealing with his wife? How is he dealing with his parents? How is he dealing with the Muslims? You can tell. The person doesn't have to tell you that I don't want to follow them. If you were to observe him, you will realize that they are on one side of the planet and that person is on the opposite side. And there's a long distance between the east and the west between them. And the only way they can be brought together is by the mercy of Allah. If that person intends to take the initiative to start moving, to start traveling upon this planet, going all the way around until you make it to them. But if you don't travel, if you stay opposing them, then we will be at loss. And maybe you have not heard some of the evidences that I will be mentioning to you. So inshallah, this will be means of enlightenment for some of us who are not aware of this reality. Why first? Why do we have to follow them? Because there's only one path. If there was more than one path which leads to Allah, then we would have the choice. And use the same thing when you give da'wah to the non-Muslims. You tell them, those who say, I don't have to be a Muslim to go to paradise. I can be a Christian and love God and worship God, and a Jew will tell you the same thing, and a Buddhist will tell you the same thing, and a Hindu and so forth. They may give you this claim. You say, possible, I agree with you. Under one condition, if all of them were identical, if Islam's teachings about God were very much the same as Christianity, as Buddhism, as Hinduism, you want to change the name of the religion, we say this is something that is feasible, right? But do you have any two religions teaching the same thing about God? No. So then there must be one way to God. So you tell them, it's a nice idea to claim that your way will lead to God, but your concept of God is different than mine. And one of us must be right and the other one must be wrong. We cannot have two gods. One in the way you understand and one in the way that I understand. So then we go back to the textual evidences to prove to them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one who deserves to be worshipped, and it is not his creation, as it is the case with the other religions. So in our case now, there's only one path. Not two, not three, not four. You want the evidence? It's a hadith of Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu warda. He said, خط لنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خطا بيمينه ثم قال هذا سبيل الله مستقيما ثم خط عن يمينه وشماله وقال هذه سبل ليس منها سبيل إلا عليه شيطان يدعو إليه ثم قرأ قوله تعالى وأن هذا صراطي مستقيما فاتبعوه ولا تتبعوا السبل فتفرق بكم عن سبيله. Ibn Mas'ud said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he drew a line for us with his hand. And he said to his companions, he drew a straight line. He said, this is the path of Allah, straight. Now listen to this teaching. Ikhwan, brothers and sisters, we don't just want to hear. You're not here just to listen to me, do gargar katir as they say. You're here to focus with what is being said. Understand what the Prophet ﷺ was trying to teach his companions. Don't just listen to the words. Try to analyze what is being said. What is the objective behind these teachings? This is not in vain. It's not just in vain. When I quote this hadith, take some time with your own self and think about it. He's telling this to his companions, the most righteous people. He said, this is the path of Allah straight. Then he drew paths on the right and on the left to the straight path. He said, these are other paths. On the head of each one is the shaitan calling to him. Then he recited the verse in the Quran. Allah says, and verily this is my path, so follow it. And do not, this is my path straight, so follow it. And do not follow other paths because it will mislead you from the path of Allah. Pause with yourself for a second. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam telling his companions, this is the path of Allah straight. What do you think that was? Wasn't it his sunnah? Wasn't it his way of life? Wasn't that the path? It was. It was. What he was doing and what they were imitating him. They were doing the same as he was doing. He said, this is the path of Allah straight. These are other paths on the side. Yeah. Who's calling to him? Shaykh al-Islam? Da'iyah? A righteous brother? Shaitan. Shaitan. Telling you, come. Join us. Join us. Come. We have established this organization, this group. It's called, I'm not going to mention any names, avoiding obviously for obvious reasons. You come with us, akhi. Here's what we do. This is our book. Huh? You think people are joking. This is our book that we follow. This is what we do. We have, such and such and such. We go and do this and we do that. You want to say, where is this from the Sunnah? So no, we understand this from, companions, something along these lines. Say, subhanallah al-azim. How am I going to leave the way of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the straight path, which we know what it is, and then go join somebody else? Go join the shaitan calling me to him. And we will hear some of the statements of the righteous predecessors. He said, look man, you people will make the talk sweet. Sweet talking. Make it sound beautiful. But it doesn't mean it's guidance. Guidance from Allah. A kafir can come here and he can impress the people with his speech. He will give you a speech that if you were not a believer that Allah has kept as a believer, you will join him. The Prophet ﷺ said that if in the speech there's magic, people are magicians in the way they address the people. So that statement is not sufficient unless the person is speaking the truth along with it. Yes, if you're a good speaker, barakallahu feek, with the truth. But to bring a good speaker who's propagating innovation, then this is not going to benefit us in any way, shape or form. So this is the first hadith which indicates that we must follow them. Because Prophet ﷺ said, this is the path, and the other ones are shayateen calling to them. So if you want to follow shaitan, if you want to stay away from the sunnah, and the way of the companions and the righteous predecessors, who didn't have a particular way of life other than what we know from the seerah, then you are abandoning the way of the Prophet ﷺ and you're following these other shayateen who are calling you to themselves. And they're not going to call you to anything but the Quran and the Sunnah, obviously, but according to what understanding? According to what understanding? You will get somebody, you know that some of the Shia, they deduce that it's lawful for you to marry 11 from the Quran. Would you believe this? They said Allah says Mathna wa Thulatha wa Ruba'. Okay? And they did the calculation. I'm sorry, not 11, 9. They did the calculation. Mathna, 2, Thulath, 3, Ruba', 7 and 2, 9. He said the Quran says you can marry 9. Then he went on to say, and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ confirms it. Now we have, look at this now. So he tell you, I'm following the Quran and Sunnah. You say, MashaAllah. What Quran and Sunnah is this? This deviant distortion of the ayah, which none of the righteous predecessors interpreted this way. You can interpret it this way, and then you tell me that, well, I'm giving you from the Quran. So we say, listen, this is a very nice way, nice slogan. I'm following the Quran and Sunnah. But which Quran and Sunnah? Now which? According to who? Are they authentic? That Sunnah that you are propagating? And is it according to the understanding of these brothers that came before you, ya akhi? Because they had better understanding than you or not? If we find that we have an opposition in one of these two, then you leave that alone. Otherwise, you get some people with twisted understanding about the ayat. And Allah told us about this in Surah Al-Imran. Those that who follow that will mutashabih. في زين في قلوب الناس. People have deviance in their heart. They will find the ayat that are not clear, that may be interpreted in more than one way, seeking the fitna, seeking the tribulation and the trial for the Muslims. So be careful of these individuals. So obviously we're talking about a particular understanding of the Quran and the Sunnah, not any understanding of the Quran and Sunnah. Because per that example, you may reconsider. So when someone tells you, well, that's what the Quran says. Say, according to who? Secondly, the hadith al-Irbad ibn Sariyah radiyallahu anhu wa ardah. قال وعظنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم موعظة وجلت منها القلوب وذرفت منها العيون. قلنا يا رسول الله كأنها وصية مودع فأوصنا. قال أوصيكم بتقوى الله والسمع والطاعة وإن تأمر عليكم عبد حبشي وإنه من يعش منكم فسيرى اختلافا كثيرا فعليكم بسنتي وسنة الخلفاء الراشدين المهديين عضوا عليها بالنواجذ وإياكم ومحدثات الأمور فكل ضلالة في النار. There's more than one wording for this hadith, some of them with the addition. But let me give you the rough translation of this hadith. Al-Irbad ibn Sariyah, may Allah be pleased with him, he said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam advised us, he admonished us in such a way that our hearts trembled and our eyes shed tears. He gave them some strong admonition, reminding them about the day of judgment, about accountability, which most of us today is the last thing on our list of thoughts. The last thing that we think about in the day is the grave, the accountability with Allah, Jannah, Jahannam, for by Allah. Each one of us evaluate himself to show you how far we are from death. How often do you think about Jahannam and the punishment of Jahannam? And how often do you think about the questioning in the grave? And how often do you think about the moments of death, the agonies of death? Maybe months will go by and we will never think about it. Some of us maybe for years have not given it even one thought. Heedlessness, like you could not believe. But the Prophet ﷺ made sure that his companions were not like us today. He admonished them until their hearts trembled and their eyes shed tears. They said, O Messenger of Allah, it is as if you are giving us farewell. It is like as if someone is giving us the farewell, meaning you're about to leave us, you're about to die or something, and you're trying to give us some final reminders. So remind us, awsina, give us an advice. He said, the first thing, أوصيكم بتقوى الله. I advise you to have taqwa of Allah and to listen and to obey even if the one in charge is in Abyssinian state. Even if you're under the rulership of the Abyssinian state. He said, because whomever will live amongst you longer after me, you will see a lot of differences. Look at the prophecy. Whoever will live amongst you, this is about them. Don't ask about today. He said, you will see a lot of difference. What is the solution, O Messenger of Allah? He gave him the solution, ala tul. He gave him the problem, the diagnosis, and the treatment. So there will be no delay. Upon you is my sunnah at that time. Only his sunnah and the sunnah of the rightly guided khulafa. Then what did he say? عَضُّوا عَلَيْهَا بِالنَّوَاجِدِ. Bite on it with your molar teeth. And I give that example often, I'll give it to you again. If you were drowning, and somebody tossed a rope in order to save you, how would you hold on to this rope? Huh? Would you touch it with your finger? Say, pull me, pull me. Hey, what's wrong with you, man? You want to be saved or you want to drown? Huh? You want to be saved? You better hold on to this rope. If your hands are hurting, what do? You bite on it. Look, man, whatever it takes for you to be saved. So for you not to drown. And this is the Prophet ﷺ is trying to send this particular message across. When this time comes, it's not going to be enough for Allah to follow the sunnah 10%. 10% sunnah in my life. You must hold on it with your molar teeth, meaning you must be all in it for you to be saved from drowning. If you play around with this stuff, man, you may not make it. If you don't hold on to the rope, you may drown. So the affair is serious. Don't belittle anything. The problem is we belittle. Say, oh, this is only this, akhi. Only this. Akhi, there's no only this in Islam. Wallahi, there's never been only this in Islam. Everything in Islam is revealed by Allah. And Allah will not reveal only this. Allah will reveal things that are beneficial for you, that will take you to Jannah, and protect you from the fire. Every single thing in Islam. So then we must hold on to the sunnah of his sunnah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the rightly guided khulafa, and we must bite on it with our molar teeth. Meaning you must strive to follow the sunnah. He said, because every innovation will lead astray, and everything that is astray, that is deviant, is going to land in the hellfire. In other narrations, he mentioned the one that we know, وَكُلَّ مُحْدَثَةٍ بِدْعَةٍ, until the end of the hadith. So here, we get a clear understanding that it is not a matter of choice whether you follow the understanding of that generation or not. It is a must if you want to be saved. When the differences happen, and we are living the differences today, then you have one way of security. And brothers in Islam and sisters in Islam, unfortunately, we do this when it comes to the worldly life. If somebody told you that there's an earthquake that will happen in some country, or a flood, will anyone remain behind? You will pack everything and leave. You will pack everything in 5 minutes. You'll be out on a plane. You won't even wait. Why? Security, man. You take the most valuable things you have with you, the things that you will need the most, and you run for your life. But the Iman and Islam, which is more valuable than your life, because your life is because of them anyways. Some people say, man, holding on to the Sunnah too tight, too difficult, ya akhi. The religion is easy, and this will be the next lecture, inshallah. The religion is easy. Ya akhi, the religion is easy. You hear the religion is easy so much. Some people say part of the religion being easy is you don't have to pray, you don't have to fast. You don't have to fast. The religion is easy. Why are you making things difficult? Hajj is difficult. Difficult. You don't have to do Hajj. So this is some of the extremism that we have in this day and time. These are people who don't understand all of these ayat, all of these narrations, obviously. And I don't want any one of us here to be among these particular individuals. I'm sure no one is, inshallah. But just in case someone was trying to, go in that direction, we could, catch ourselves before it's too late. We have no choice, ya akhwan, but to follow the way of these brothers who preceded us, those whom Allah has chosen from all of the creation to be the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and those who came after them, who loved the deen of Islam, who propagated the deen of Islam, who strove all their life for me and you to sit here today and use the same knowledge that was conveyed by them. You don't know the Quran except through the companions. And you don't know the Hadith except through the companions. And you don't know that from the companions except through their students, the early generations. So everything me and you have from blessings as far as deen, it is through them. Is this how you show thankfulness? Somebody does you a favor and you go thank the neighbor? Or you thank him? Somebody gives you a gift, you give a gift to somebody else. You give a gift back to the one who gave you a gift, because this is how you establish this brotherly love between you and the brother, and the sisters with the sisters, of course. So Allah musta'an, Allah musta'an. The most decisive narration and crucial in this context here is the one that is really scary. The other ones, it seems like they're more encouraging than threatening. This hadith, which is hadithun sahihun mashhur, it is an authentic narration. It is famous, narrated by most of the muhaddithin, Ibn Majah, Abu Dawood, An-Nasa'i, Tirmidhi, and others, where the Prophet ﷺ said, افترقت اليهود على 71 فرقة وافترقت النصارى على 72 فرقة وستفترق أمتي على 73 فرقة كلها في النار إلا واحدة قالوا من هي يا رسول الله قال من كان على مثل ما أنا عليه وأصحابي. This hadith is all that you need. The Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, said, the Jews have divided into 71 sects or denominations. And the Christians have divided into 72 sects or denominations. And my Ummah, the Muslims, shall divide into 73. All of them in the hellfire. Except one. Now the companions, knowing how keen they were on being rightly guided, they couldn't leave this occasion without asking, who are they? They were so humble that they don't even think that it is about them. Naturally you will think they know he's speaking about them, right? Who else? But they were so humble. They belittled themselves so much. They thought that they were such bad people that they had to verify whether they are these individuals or not. Or even asking, who are they, O Messenger of Allah? Who are they, O Messenger of Allah? He said, whoever is upon what I am and my companions. That's it. 72 sects will be going to the hellfire. Why? Because they disregarded that which the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was upon and his companions. This hadith is sahih. It is authentic. And it is a warning for any believer living from the time until the day of judgment. If you want to go straight to Jannah, now pay attention. When we speak about the 72 sects, we're not saying that these people will never go to Jannah. Right? Because Prophet ﷺ said, Ummati, my Ummah, meaning they're still among the Muslims. We're not speaking about those whose shirk or innovation has taken them beyond the pale of Islam. We're talking about those who are still within the boundaries of Islam. Those who are still among the Muslims will divide into these 73 sects, and all of them will be doing the actions of the people of the hellfire, unless Allah wills otherwise. Right? But their way of life, their methodology is that will lead to Jahannam. And the only group of people who will not go there are those who are upon what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was upon and his companions. And how do you know? You need a lecture. Or if you don't want to hear a lecture, you need to buy a book. Get a book about the companions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. You don't even have to buy a book, yes. Now you can say, if you go online, you go to Google it up. And put the companions of the Messenger of Allah, and you will get hundreds of links. Of course, you refer to the reliable ones. And you just look at these individuals and then look at yourself. You will cry. When you observe and you compare yourself to them, you will think you are nothing. Absolutely nothing. Really, if you want to compare one of us to one of them, ya Shaykh, we are far behind. We are far behind. And still, we need to be upon their path. So what about the one who's far behind and doesn't want to imitate them? Doesn't want to follow them, or claims to be following them, but not living it out in his life. All of these are warnings for those who have understand, those who have a heart that listen, those who listen to the reminder and follow the best of it. These are warnings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, warning from the Prophet ﷺ, telling us, prophesying what will happen to the Ummah. And we are living this prophecy today. We see the division, ya akhwan. You see the various sects in Islam. So many. And they continue to divide on daily basis. The same group that was one group wind up branching off into other groups. And the group became more group and more group. We don't even know where this is going. So a person says, where am I going to go? What is the solution? We say it's easy. See how they did it and follow their way. Follow them because they were safe. They were safe. Following people today may not necessarily be safe. And I will quote to you something from Ibn Mas'ud, radiallahu anhu, which emphasizes this particular state. I'm going to read it by wording because I don't want to take a chance of making a mistake. So be patient with me. He said, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, you know, the virtuous scholar among the Sahaba, radiallahu anhu, he said, people will not cause to be in good as long as knowledge emanating from the companions of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and their elders reach them. If however knowledge comes to them by the way of their young and their desires diversified, they will be ruined. He said, whoever amongst you seeks to adopt a path, should take to the way of the dead, those who have died. Speaking about the companions in the early generations. Since the living are not safe and secure from being put to trial. You know, those who are alive, he may be upon the deen one day, and he may turn away the next day. Those who died in the state of goodness, khalas, they're stamped already. So this is more safe. He said, the companions of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, possess the most pious hearts of this ummah. The most pious hearts of this ummah were the most profound in knowledge and the least constraint of this ummah. A people whom Allah chose for the companionship of His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the establishment of His religion. So know their rights and adhere to their guidance, for they indeed were upon the straight way. This particular statement is from his understanding of the same narration that he narrated about the straight path. Remember, he's the one who narrated the hadith of the one path. And he is telling you how he understood it. He said, for they indeed, they were upon the straight way. The companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, we emulate and do not set precedents. We follow and do not innovate. And we will not deviate as long as we hold on to the narrations. He also said, follow and do not innovate, for indeed you have been sufficed. You've been given plenty. You have from the sunnah plenty that does not require that you innovate anything or practice any bid'ah. You have plenty from the sunnah. Al-Awza'i said, knowledge is that which emanates from the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As for anything else besides this, it is not knowledge. Knowledge is only what they have. Everything else is not knowledge. And unless your knowledge today is in accordance with their knowledge, then you don't have any knowledge. That's what it is. That's what they said. He said, again, patiently restrict yourself upon the sunnah. Patiently restrict yourself upon the sunnah. Stop where the people, meaning the companions, stopped. Wherever they stopped, stop. They didn't speak about the names and attributes of Allah. They did not compare Allah to His creation, nor did they deny the attributes of Allah. But now this is very common, that a Muslim will deny the names and attributes of Allah because they believe that it is resembling the creation of Allah. They didn't discuss these things, don't discuss these things. Now it is required for you to have knowledge. Otherwise, back then, these were not among the things that they discussed. They had adab with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, say what they say and refrain from that which they refrain. Traverse upon the path of your salaf al-salih, your righteous predecessors. For indeed, what was sufficient for them is sufficient for you. What was sufficient for them is sufficient for you. Al-Hasan al-Basri said, rahimahullah, he was in a gathering when he mentioned the companions of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He then remarked, they possess the most pious hearts of this ummah, were the most profound in knowledge and the least constrained. A people whom Allah chose for the companionship of His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So emulate their character and way. By the Lord of the Kaaba, they are upon the straight path. This is very similar to the statement of Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, and that shows you how the Tabi'een were following even the very statements of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam Abu Hanifa, rahmatullahi alayhi, he said, he was questioned, what is your comment on the speech innovated by the people regarding Al-A'rab and Al-Assam, speaking about the names and attributes of Allah? He replied, statements of the philosophers. Statements of the philosophers. He said, take to the narrations and the way of As-Salaf, the righteous predecessors, and beware of every newly invented matter, for it is indeed an innovation. This is quoted by As-Suyuti. You know, there are many statements actually that were mentioned by the righteous predecessors dealing with this particular concept, which I will not have the time actually, because we started late, to deal with all of them. But really, let me conclude this particular lecture with this ayah. This ayah is in reference to this hadith. This ayah and And these, actually, the ayah and the hadith, they go hand in hand. And it is how the righteous predecessors understood the hadith that I quoted to you earlier in the light of this ayah. It is the famous ayah in Surah An-Nisa. وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. Listen to this ayah in the Quran. Maybe you never read it before. Or maybe you read it in Arabic, never read what it meant in the language that you understand. Or maybe you read it in the language you understand, but you never bothered to ponder or reflect upon what is said in this particular ayah. Whichever one of these three you are, let me give you take the honor to explain it to you tonight. The ayah says clearly, whoever opposes or contradicts the messenger after the truth has been conveyed to him. Now notice the addition. And follows a path other than that of the believers. Not only that, those who contradict the messenger, but also follows a path other than that of the believers, we will allow him to traverse upon the path that he chose, and we will make him enter Jahannam, and what an evil abode. Did you hear that? Whoever contradicts the messenger after the truth has been conveyed, the ayah comes to you, the hadith comes to you. If you oppose him, sallaLlaahu alayhi, and not only that, if you follow a path other than that of the believers, who were the believers at that time? When Allah revealed this ayah, who were the believers? The Sahaba. If you follow other than their path, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that this is the path leading to Jahannam. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said in commenting on this particular ayah, he said, there's something very interesting. Whoever contradicts the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has automatically contradicted the way of the companions. And whoever contradicts the way of the companions has automatically contradicted the way of the messenger. And if anyone believes that by following them he is mistaken, then in the same token he is mistaken if he is like the one who believes he is mistaken by following the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If anyone believes he is wrong by imitating the companions, then in the same sense, he is similar to the one who believes he is wrong because he is imitating the Prophet ﷺ. If you believe that, you cannot be a Muslim. You see? Because of this ayah. And the scholars say, we know, ya akhwan, there's nothing in the Quran that is mere chance, or there's nothing in the Quran that was not intended to be there. There's not even a single letter that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not, there was wisdom behind it being there. So that addition, وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and follows the path other than that of the believers, is an indication given to us by Allah. That not only you have to stay with the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, but you must do it according to the way of his companions and those who follow them in their goodness. So this is really what we need today in the Muslim Ummah. We are suffering. The Muslim Ummah is suffering. Our company is barely doing business. Had it not been for the mercy of Allah and the promise that the business will remain until the Day of Judgment, wallah, we would have been out of business. But it is the mercy of Allah that the company is still there. And there are those groups available that are calling to themselves, trying to take us away from the integrity and the quality that was given by them. But there must be another group of people who will call to that first one. So it is my obligation and yours, my brothers in Islam. You are living in a country where you are able to do that. You may not be able to do this elsewhere. You may be beat up in a masjid if you try to speak about some of these things. You may be cursed and boycotted and abandoned and treated as a kafir, not even a Muslim brother, if you try to speak about some of these things elsewhere. But you are living in an environment where this is normal. So take advantage of that. Understand that. And raise your children upon this understanding. When was the last time you met a young boy who's not wearing a soccer jersey for some kafir, who all day runs, that this is his life. He knows how to run from the one net to the other side of the field. And he becomes famous, makes a lot of money, and our children, they think this is Superman. This is number one. So he wears a jersey that says, Ronaldo or Batik, whatever his name is, some disbeliever. And you ask him, what do you know about Umar ibn Khattab? Who's that? Who's Umar ibn Khattab? But what do you know about, this singer? Oh, yeah. He made a new song, last week. I memorized some of the lyrics. Oh, okay. Did you hear the last movie, that was issued? Maybe 10-year-old kid. Huh? Did you watch, what was the movie about magic? that crazy movie that spread all over, they made books about it, whatever. You know, shirk, kufr in the content of the things that the children are learning, but wallah, they know this. He will tell you the PlayStation, when it was manufactured, in which country, how many they sold in the first day, how many people got the original, then version number 2, PS2, PS3, 4, 5, 6, 15, then the different games. They know everything. They know everything. And you know, the father is at home. Nice TV channel. New TV channel, new movies. Hollywood, right at your home. Honey, make some popcorn. And let us have a nice Islamic modern life. We are going to Jannah. You say, man, you must be joking with yourself and with your children. You must be misunderstanding the deen of Islam altogether. If we were upon their way, this could never be the way your house runs. Never. It will be something totally different. People go to the extreme, what am I going to do? You think it's extreme? That's not my problem. Following the deen is extreme, that's your problem. We just follow. Not having a TV? Big deal. Since when was the TV a must? Have you ever seen someone sell you a house with a TV in there? You need a window, you need a bathroom, you don't need a TV. It's an extra luxurious thing. You don't have to have a TV, ya akhi. We don't even have enough time to read the Quran. We don't have enough time to memorize ayat and narrations. We don't have time to sit with our kids teaching the sunnah, the seerah. We don't have time. We need the TV after all this, then when are you going to have time? If you're not watching TV, you don't have time. Because you have to work, you have to earn a living, you have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to rest. So many things in the day, you know, that you don't even have time to sometimes study. You know, you ask the students, so we're going to add a TV and make all Tom and Jerry raise our children. You know, killing each other all day, fighting, cursing. You know, the Little Mermaid. What is the Little Mermaid? She's a half-naked woman, wearing a bra, running away from her father because she loves the man who lives on earth. And the little daughter, innocent, watching Disneyland all day, say, Mami mushkila, Disneyland nice. Then when she's 15 years old, wallah, she runs out of the house. Why? She loved the boy from the next door, you know, school. Ma salama. Now, you may not know what led to that, but it was the brainwashing that she was receiving all these years when she was watching The Little Mermaid. So I'm not trying to freak you out here or scare you, but we must really have some understanding that the whole world is trying to take us away from this understanding of the deen. The whole world is working with each other to make me and you deviant, to impose poison in our lives through the television, through the media, through the nonsense. And if we fall for this trap, then we can never be like these brothers. Because you cannot imagine Umar ibn Khattab being obsessed with some famous sports figure during the time of the Greeks, you know, because the Greeks were known for the Olympics. They started the Olympics. Can you imagine Umar walking around with a jersey, saying, Wallah, I love Cleopatra, whatever his name was. Say, you know, this is one of my, this is one of my big fans. Did you see any one of them doing any of this nonsense? But today our children, everyone is an example except the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everyone. Yeah, it's traumatizing. So then, we must make a change. Before our children, you. Sometimes, we want to fix the child and you're broken. How you going to fix it? So when I'm saying that, speaking of the children, this is an indirect hint for me and you that we must first fix ourselves. You know? Yeah, you're going to live this life for some 20, 30, 40 years, but then you're going to leave. You're leaving regardless. And it's either Jannah or Jahannam. And it all depends on how you handle business today. Why would you want to run some lousy business, cheat the people, no quality, no integrity? Why? Why don't you do business right, be patient, struggle, suffer, then enter Jannah? And you cannot do that unless you do it the way they did it. So, I mean, we have been given simplified information, and it seems that we don't want it. You know, we're getting everything on a gold platter, and brothers just don't want it. We have to be begged to follow the sunnah, and we don't want to follow the sunnah. You see what I'm saying? It's almost like brothers begged us. Ya akhi, please imitate the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet was like, I'm okay, ya akhi. I have my own way. He has his way, I have my own way. You get shocked. Is this Islam? Is this what Islam was? Is this how the companions were? Is this how the early generations were? No, they were not like this. So, tonight you make a choice. Tonight, before you leave this place, you make a choice to better yourself. You're not going to do everything in one night. Tomorrow you're going to become, you know, Shaykh al-Islam. But you must start somewhere. Strive. And Allah promised that if you strive, Allah will aid you. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. strive in our cause, we will guide them to our paths. A promise from Allah. So I'm only calling myself and you to take the initiative tonight to start trying to follow the way of the righteous predecessors. To live the sunnah the same way they lived the sunnah. To live Islam and love Islam. To pray to Allah while we feel that we are praying. You know, if you pray and you don't feel like you're praying, meaning you're not there. If salah is a burden on you, you're not there. If you don't like going to the masjid, you're not there. If you pray in the second jama'ah, you're not there. If you're not waking up for fajr, you're not there. And I can go on for an hour telling you the things that me and you suffer from that will make us disqualified from being there. So it's about time, ya akhwan, that we wake up. Start taking this deen seriously. Be an example to be followed. Propagate the sunnah. Live according to the sunnah. Wallahi, you will live happy. I promise you, not because of me, because Allah promised, you will live a happy life. You will be satisfied even if the money is low. You will be comfortable and honored even if the people are disgraced. Because you'll be honored through Islam and you'll be dishonored and disgraced through not implementing Islam. So I ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to give me and you the understanding of the righteous predecessors and to make us among those who follow them strictly in faith and in their way of life. Perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make us among those who will enter Jannah among the saved sect and will not be among those who enter Jannah. Wallahu ta'ala alam, alhamdulillah, wa sallallahu sallam ala nabiyyina. Q&A. Sensitive. Last time we had a Q&A, we had another lecture. Allah musta'an. The question says, network marketing is halal or haram? By purchasing the product, become a member and doing marketing, getting commission for the products, is it allowed in Islam? The last fatwa that I read is that it is not. It is not allowed in Islam, which is known sometimes as the pyramid. Some of the ways it's done is pyramid. You know, you become a member, then you bring people, and the more people you bring, you get a commission, this whole business. Actually, there's a fatwa, detailed fatwa, issued by the scholars that speak about the impermissibility of this particular form of transaction. For the details, send an email to onewaytoparadise@gmail.com. Onewaytoparadise, letters, onewaytoparadise@gmail.com. And I will email you the fatwa, the whole fatwa inshallah with the details, so you will know exactly why it is unlawful. I myself cannot give you that answer. In Salah, Takbirat al-Ihram means saying Allahu Akbar and raising the hand. So is it two actions? Then what about Takbirat Salatul Janazah and Salatul Eid after Takbirat al-Ihram? Do we have to raise the hand? Takbirat al-Ihram is actually saying Allahu Akbar, and raising the hand is another aspect that is also part of the Salah. They're not both falling under Takbirat al-Ihram. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Either way, in order to be on the safe side, refer to the books of fiqh. There's one in English, I don't remember the name right now, but I do have a copy of this particular book. We can go back to the kutub of fiqh to understand, because the scholars differ about these things extensively. The madahib, the four madahib, differ about raising the hand, whether you should do it, when you should do it, and we don't want to open a discussion of the difference of opinion among the madahib. Nonetheless, there's a difference of opinion whether it is a part of wajib of the salah or a sunnah of the salah, depending on which takbirah it is and when raise the hands after getting up from ruku' and things of this nature. I'm unable to answer right now either. So inshallah, if you also send me an email, I will give you some references that you can read from the statements of the scholars. طيب لم يقل تمسكوا بصما. The Prophet ﷺ is trying to indicate that when the Prophet ﷺ spoke about holding on to a sunnah and the sunnah of the rightly guided khulafa, it is by practical implementation. It is not just by basically abstract sense. It is by putting it into practice. Not just speaking about it and knowing it, it's actually putting it into practice if I understood it correctly. And then he said, the Prophet ﷺ told us how to enter Jannah and how to strive for it. And the news has reached us that the Sahaba have attained Jannah. So if you follow their way, then you will also be attaining Jannah. Jazakallahu khairan. Ahsanallahu alayhi. Very beneficial. How can we grow our children upon the prophetic path in this era that is filled with entertainment? Throw away the entertainment. I remember in another country, there was a sister who had 2 children. And her husband was away. She didn't have a husband. Whatever the case may be, she had suffered with her children regarding the television set. She warned the children from watching TV. They continued to watch TV. Obviously, the TV did not have, some of the channels that we may have today, like Al-Majd and everything. Even, all the channels is another discussion. But whatever the case may be, they were affected by the TV. And the sister struggled until she made the strong decision. And she called brother, his name was Ali. And this brother Ali, he was the ex-world champion in bodybuilding. The brother, mashallah, was huge. He could eat me in 1 bite if he ever attempted to do so. Alhamdulillah, he was my friend, so he never did that. Anyways, this brother, went into the house. So where's this TV? And they brought him to the TV, and he just grabbed the TV like this, took it outside, and whoosh, destroyed it in the backyard. Why? Because if he left it alive, maybe the neighbors will take it the next day and they will disobey Allah with it. So it was necessary that the TV was destroyed. And since then, that sister the household altogether was much better. There was time for Quran, time for learning, time for speaking with each other, spending time, because that shaitan has left. And really, I personally consider the TV, unless you're watching strictly Islamic stuff, a shaitan. He's the shaitan in your house, imposing his methodology and ideology upon you and your children. You don't control him, like you control the internet to some extent. You may go to a good website, you may go to a bad website, you still have the pop-up ads, but you can even disable that. But when it comes to the TV, you may be watching a football game, and next thing you know, there's a naked woman walking across the TV screen because of some commercial or advertisement that you didn't ask for. So then you're going to lower the gaze, right? How often do people lower the gaze when they see a woman on TV? Please. And you try to tell this to your children. So really, you have the entertainment at home. Get away. We're not saying don't be entertained. We're not being extreme. We're not saying, everybody sits at home like this. The father is just straight face. He said, don't smile. Why? We're following the sunnah. Say, man, come on. That's not what we're trying to say. Don't live the backward life like the Amish people. Enjoy life, but within the halal, within reason. Entertainment with it. Take the children to the park, let them have some fun, take them to any place that is halal. They may watch some channels, if you do have a TV, some lawful channels that have some good teachings of the sunnah. I have mushkila. But we're talking about the other aspect of things. So have entertainment, but within limitation. And be careful of that entertainment containing haram. Otherwise, you're trying to teach, and the society is trying to teach, and usually you will lose. You will lose. Because the influence that they have is much stronger than the influence you may have. Because you're busy. So one way, practical solution, as the sister did, throw away the entertainment. And if people try to turn off this TV for one day, and try to live a family life, you will see the difference. In the quality of life in the household. Even the internet sometimes, it's so distracting that we don't have time for our children. The children need some attention. Say, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. How often are we busy? May Allah forgive us for our shortcomings. I'm not excluding myself from this. So the internet is even, if you misuse it, it becomes extreme. So anything that you do too much of is no good. Similarly, entertainment, khali wali. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What are the candidates for doing masih on socks while doing ablution? Conditions, I'm sorry. The first condition is that you must be in the state of major purity. If you had been in the state of major impurity, then you made ghusl. So that's first. If you were in the state of major impurity. If not, then you need to be in the state of wudu. You make wudu, the full wudu with the washing of the feet. Then you put on your socks. Now, from the socks, the scholars have differed about the thickness of the socks. Some of them said they must be thick enough where it is not see-through, you do not see your skin. And some of them said this is not necessary. Some of them said if there are holes in it, then it is not valid to wipe over them. Some of them said we cannot imagine the companions, all of them having socks that did not have any holes in it. They were not, buying Lacoste or anything like that. They lived a rough life, so we assumed that they had holes in their socks, and it was still okay for them to wipe over them. The most sound position, as far as I know from what the scholars have mentioned, is that it doesn't matter what kind of sock it is. As long as it is a sock that you put on your feet and it goes above the ankles, according to the more correct position, it goes above the ankles, then from the moment you put on these socks or khuffayn, if they are leather, you may wipe over them for the duration of 24 hours if you are a resident, or 72 hours or 3 days and 3 nights if you are a traveler. But when does it begin? Not as many people think. The more correct opinion is that from the first time you wipe over them, this is when you start counting the 24 hours. Not from the time you put them on. Meaning you wake up for Fajr at 4:30. You make wudu. You put on your socks. You don't start counting the 24 hours from the moment you put on your socks. Rather, you may put them on, go to Salat al-Fajr, go to work afterwards, and then you break your wudu at 10 o'clock. You renew your wudu before Dhuhr in 10 minutes, at 12:10. At that particular time, from the first time you wipe over the socks, you begin counting the 24 hours. So these are the conditions. It must be in a state of purity, and then you wipe for 24 hours, and afterwards you must take them off and make wudu again by washing your feet, and then you may put them back on. If you're traveling, then you have 3 days and 3 nights. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Please say the middle path of the straight path is take from religion. What is easy and affordable to him, and other path is extreme. Actually, a sister, this is from a sister, the next lecture inshallah, which is scheduled to be not the coming Monday, alhamdulillah we're able to make a little gap, the following Monday, the 27th, I believe it will be the 27th of April, the lecture will be about strictly following the sunnah versus the religion is easy. Strictly following the sunnah versus the religion is easy. How do you understand which is which? So that is a lecture, and we will just postpone that till that time, if all of us remain alive. It's Rahmat, then H-U-L-A-L-L-A-H. Rahmatullah, I guess, and the other one is Rahimahullah. Oh, maybe you mean when we speak of the companion, whether you say Rahmatullah alayhi or Rahimahullah. If this is the case, then both are correct. Rahimahullah means may Allah have mercy on him. Rahmatullah alayhi is just changing of the wording. May the mercy of Allah be upon him. Either way, the meaning is the same. Okay, so the ha in Rahimahullah is in reference to the one being spoken about. And Rahmah here as is the attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with the ta marbuta. It's the same word with the variation of the grammar only. And so if this is what you meant, both are correct. You can say Rahmatullahi alayhi or Rahimahullahu ta'ala. Wallahu a'lam. We would love to follow the salaf who are not with us anymore. But every ulama explains and strengthens his argument with a hadith. So what is a common man supposed to do if he wants to follow the right path but is confused whom to follow? If the Prophet ﷺ showed us one straight path. Why do the ulama differ? Well, the ulama differ because first the ulama differ in terms of the caliber of the ulama. Yani the alim himself, whether he is upon the sunnah or not. Because you have ulama who are not upon the sunnah. Readily available among the Muslim Ummah, telling you to celebrate innovations, telling you to do things that are not part of the sunnah, and they do this outwardly, and they propagate that. So these, it's obvious that, we have been given understanding and intellect to distinguish between the truth and the falsehood. There are signs that you can tell in the alim. Now, among the ulama who are upon this right understanding, they differed because it was the nature of the deen that there are issues that people may differ about in terms of understanding. And this goes all the way back to the companions. So even in the difference of the scholars, they are actually going back to the difference. They are imitating the companions who also differ. But did that difference cause their hearts to differ? No. Did that difference make them boycott find that some of them would do something in this fashion, and the other would do in another fashion. And the Prophet ﷺ already gave us the outcome. He said that if the person who has knowledge, if he exerts himself and he gets it right, he will get 2 rewards. And if he gets it wrong, he will get 1 reward. So even if the alim makes a mistake, he will still be rewarded by Allah. There are a list of the ulama that we can refer to present in our comment in the day, and those who have preceded us. I intended not to mention names intentionally, because I don't want to cause any tribulations or anything of this nature. But obviously, if you wish, you can email me, and I can email you some of the scholars that are reliable in terms of you seeking knowledge from, whether from the old early generations, like we know from the Imam Shafi'i, the 4 A'imma, Sufyan ibn Uyayna, Sufyan al-Thawri, al-Awza'i, Hasan al-Basri, Ikrimah, and all those companions and the Tabi'een. And then in Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim, Imam al-Dhahabi, Ibn Kathir, these ulama, and those who are in recent time like Shaykh bin Baz, rahimahullah, Shaykh bin Uthaymeen, Shaykh al-Albani, rahmatullah alayh, and some of the other mashayikh. These are the individuals who were known for maintaining the understanding of the early generations and propagating it in this fashion. Yet I am not calling anyone to label himself by any particular label. Okay, I'm just saying that this is the way. This is the methodology that we want to travel upon. And I will stop right there. I will not go beyond that. Why don't we suggest about music between Islamic lectures on radio? What do you suggest about music between Islamic lectures on radio? And new channels on TV which involve music as well, pictures moving. Does angels come in such case? As far as the Islamic lectures on radio, if we're able to, you usually don't have control of the radio station. If somebody gave you the choice that, okay, we're going to broadcast your lecture, do you want us to put any music? What do you think you're going to say? Of course not. But usually they don't give you that option. So if the case is as such, we say, if they play music anyways, let them put the lecture. Because maybe someone who is listening to music will listen to something beneficial and change his ways. And Allah will guide him from that. You see what I'm saying? Rather than saying, leave him alone misguided. Rather, we want everybody to be guided to Islam. But usually don't have a choice in these things. They're imposed upon them. Angels do not enter a place, of course, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being disobeyed. Angels don't even enter a place where there's a picture of an animated being, whether it is a human being or an animal with facial features. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-malaikatu la tadkhul bayt fih kalb aw sura." The angels do not enter a house which has a dog or an image. Now, if you have an image of a plant or a sun or the moon, ma fi mushkila. But if you have your graduation picture, with a big smile on your face, no angels for you there. No angels for you over there. And the scholars say, look man, a house with no angels is no good. That's a house with shayateen. Because you either have shayateen or you have angels. They don't sit with each other. So, sitting there listening to music on the TV, and what TV channel now, is free from that. Even Allah musta'an, the Islamic channels, the nasheed, that sounds nothing like the shi'r or the poetry of the companions, that you cannot even tell the difference now between a song or a nasheed. Except that they call it Islamic nasheed. But if you heard it, say, what is this man? This sounds like an old song that I used to listen back in my jahiliyyah. You know what I'm saying? So, be careful of these things. Allah musta'an, Allah, it's a fitna. And the problem is, if I sit in here and try to tell you, to leave all these alone, people think that we're trying to push you away from the deen of Allah. And Allah knows that I want protection for myself and for you. So I tell you the truth, if you're able to live at that level, barakallah fiqh. Then you're just only strengthening your opportunity to enter Jannah without any punishment. If you're unable to give up some of these things, then Allah musta'an. It's a lot of fitna. Music, women, openness, negligence, carelessness in the way people conduct themselves. It's a problem, calamity that has befallen upon the Muslims. Perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept that from us and grant us that wish that we really, sincerely, inshallah, wish from the bottoms of our heart. Allah musta'an. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.